right, good morning, good Tuesday morning, good joints and glands Tuesday morning. All right, so this is being recorded, so prior to this, it was a very, very interesting conversation. And even within those things, you have to let that go as well. So close your eyes, attend to your breath, straighten the spine. Take a deep breath, let that go. Just a moment to even out the breathing. And to let every exhale settle and every inhale reaffirm. And then within that reaffirmation, bring your hands to your heart center. Just gently open up the eyes and begin that prayer flow. So it's almost like gathering up the energy and then bringing it down through the chakras. Let's do that several times. And that in itself is a reaffirmation. Just bring it in. So we physically move the body to remind ourselves that we do have that divine connection. And that's what centers us, grounds us, and keeps us in our humanness. One more. Very mindful, very aware. Where are your hands right now? Where are the shoulders? Where do the palms end up? How do you move them back down to the heart? How do they travel in front of the face and along the bridge of the nose and in front of the lips and the throat and back to the heart? How long does it take? And then drop the forehead to the fingertips and relax the shoulders and soften the back of the neck and let everything be okay. And then from here, raise your head, press the palms together, and bring the right elbow to that left knee. So now we're twisting and moving the spine in the same mindful awareness way. And then switch to the other side. But in that switching, pay attention to the movement of the spine. So switch on your own, but it's not elbow to knee anymore. It's the spine moving you. It's the muscles attached. How does that make you feel? So we've switched the awareness from joints. We're moving it in towards spine and muscle. And we're activating glands as a result. So this is what mindful movement is all about. Even as simple as this is, how easy it is for all of us. we can treasure these simple, easy movements by just shifting how we look at them. All right, balance yourself out. Come back to the heart. And let's do the same thing with pressing the arms forward. So the fingertips are up, and what are we pressing against? And that can have a whole lot of different answers, right? And then bring the arms up. Point the fingertips to the ceiling. And what are we pointing to? Again, a lot of different answers here. And then how about out to the side? If we reach the arms and the fingertips out and the shoulders are holding us steady, what are we engaging with now? Now bring the hands back to the heart, but feel the pressure in between the palms. Feel it as they get closer and closer and closer. And then bring the palms together. And then now separate the palms slightly. And feel the energy in between the palms. And now as you feel that little buoyancy of energy, kind of soften your hands, soften the fingers, make it like imagine that you're holding a small ball. And you can feel the air, it's a soft ball and it's not hard. And you can, each fingertip feels the pressure of that soft ball. And then now bring it in a little bit closer as if the ball is shrinking. And notice what you feel there. And if you feel a little pressure or a little pushing against the hands, that's the energy of your body that you're feeling. That's how strong it is. Now bring all of the fingertips together. Let them touch, and it's just a slight touch. So your fingers are wide, your fingers are spread, they're not in prayer. They're cupping a smaller ball, enough that you can touch your fingers and the ball is in between them. And notice the difference of the energy touching those fingers versus when they were separate. So it almost feels like it's too much. So now separate your fingers again so that they're not touching. Sense that energy. And it might feel even a little bit more comfortable because you're not touching a body part. But try it again. Now, if you bring the fingertips together, so now you've got the energy within that ball, the energy at the fingertips, and it almost feels very stimulating. All right, and just release from there, just relax your shoulders. A fun little practice. All right, just breathe, rest. We're going to take the energy of those fingertips and place them on your forehead. So in joints and glands, we are brushing, the tension and the stress and strife off the body. But today, let's practice a little differently. Let's bring the attention on those tips of those fingers that you felt when you were in that little ball. Bring them onto the forehead. So your fingers are bent and they're cupped. And now just slide them across the forehead as if your energy in the fingertips are the healing element. So now that changes the way you feel about this simple movement. Instead of thinking of the forehead, think of the fingertips. think of the energy behind it. Think about the capacity that the human being has to heal itself. It's right here, right at this gentle touch. So release that sensation, whatever it is in the forehead. And then now move it into the eye socket. Same thing. Now you've got your thumb and your first finger running along that eye socket. And think of it as, oh, how about a healing wand, like a Harry Potter thing. And that gives it a whole different element too. Like you're not just rubbing the skin. You're bringing in another element of health. And then now try the first finger underneath the socket, the lower eye socket. Same thing. So now focus the energy right in the first index finger. So now you're isolating and it's almost like a laser beam. So all the energy is now focused in that one fingertip. How cool is that? And then work down to the sinuses. So we just can, and it doesn't have to be fast, because our mindfulness and our awareness of what we're doing has shifted dramatically. So we're not just moving the fingers up and down to release sinuses. Now we're going through more of a modality. Now shift to making that big U under the cheekbone and see how that feels. What does that mean to you? Touching the face. And then now let's go back to all those fingertips, all the energy on those fingertips. And we'll start the tapping of the upper jaw. But realizing that the energy in those fingertips are doing the work, not the fingers themselves. And go to the lower jaw. Shift the awareness. Make it real. And then work your way up to the jaw joint. And now when we massage here, we're massaging energy into it. Bring it into it. And then when we reverse it and go the other way, why do we do that? How does that feel different to you? And why do you enjoy it? And since we're right by the ears, take a moment to pull on the earlobes, but in a way that you're not pulling on the earlobes and all around you're pressing your healing energy into it. You're inviting it in. You're massaging it in. You're kneading it in like bread. Like when you knead a loaf of bread, you're incorporating all the ingredients that make the bread edible. And it's a beautiful thing because the end product is just delicious. And it's part of that life force that you have incorporated it into that loaf of bread. That's why it becomes more and more delicious. Your attitude of doing, just like we're massaging the ears, it's the attitude of doing it. All right, the inner ear, give it a good massage, same thing. So now you're kind of stirring. And then try behind the ear and see what that means to you. Does it evoke an emotion? Ears are very sensitive. So if emotion arises, it's not surprising. Very enjoyable. So relaxing. You wonder why cats love it. They always want their ears scratched. I wonder why. You know, animals are such fabulous teachers because they know exactly what they need and they get it for themselves, either by their own methods or they're asking their owners to do it for them. And they generally get it. They know how to ask. So we do the same thing, but we're not quite as mindful as they are. All right. Okay, now just relax the arms again. And go to that place of how do I feel with just that little bit of movement? Notice what's running through the body. Breathe into it. And it's just taking that extra few breaths or cycles of awareness where what we just did with those simple exercises, it makes it all blend into play, comes into play. It's like kneading the bread. You're kind of done with that loaf of bread. Now it's time to let it rise. So we're letting it rise. And that's what obviously almost the biggest part or very essential part of baking a loaf of bread. If you didn't let it rise, you'd have a big hard lump. And that's what can happen with our bodies as well. We don't pay attention. So bringing that same concept into working the neck. Begin with sitting up a little taller and tucking the chin back, just like, not a lot, not like turtling. It's just a tiny movement back, chin level, just tiny. Where if somebody walked into the room, they probably wouldn't even notice. That kind of a tiny. So from there, drop your right ear to your shoulder. And this is tiny also. So not very far down, very small movement, bring it back up. And try it several times, right to right and back up. And how does that feel compared to some of the other practices that we have that were a bit more dramatic? All right, come to center, just take a brief rest. And then try the other side. Now it's just tiny, your chin is just still very slightly tucked. Just think of your forehead. No, that's not a good analogy. Everything is lined up from the nose to the tailbone. And the movements are tiny, but it's that tiny movement that actually has equal benefit as the bigger ones. There's time for bigger ones, but then those smaller ones allow us to make the bigger ones safely. All right, back to center rest. And isn't it interesting when you go back to rest, how you're ready for a rest? Tiny movements and you're ready for a rest. Can you ask yourself why? Breathe deep and easy. Now take that same movement, but press the head forward. So we're gonna, it's not a big one, press it forward and turtle it back. But this is tiny. So maybe an inch forward and an inch back, if that. Find a comfortable way that you can move your head parallel to the floor, forward and back without any strain whatsoever. Forward and back. And maybe if someone watched you, they might not even detect that motion. It might be that tiny. But in your mind, you're moving your head forward and back. And how does that feel? I mean, you know you're moving, you're physically slightly moving, but you're mentally moving it. So what we're doing is we're relaxing ourselves from the inside. And we're noticing what's going on internally as it expresses itself externally in a very soft, gentle way. All right, pause in the center, relax again, and notice how you're ready for the rest. It feels good, it feels right, and there's a reason for that. The reason is the body needs to rest after it moves. It needs to move. It's born to move. It's also born to be mindful of the move and to rest afterwards. Okay, let's work down the arms. So from here, let's do waterfall with the hand. So this time, we'll use that same internal awareness with waterfall. So bring your right palm toward your face, and then your left, it's palm to palm. And then start low. What I'd like you to do is reduce any weight in your right arm. Your right arm doesn't have any feeling. So it's heavy. So you're going to take your left hand, you're going to pull your right arm up. Pull it all the way up. There's no resistance in your right. Now, when you get to the highest point, bend the fingers back and let your left hand bring the right arm down. Don't let your right arm do the work. This is very different than what we've done before. It's actually harder. You can probably already realize that. And then just start it over again and notice the resistance in your right arm. Let it go limp, you're pulling it up. And then you're bending back and bringing it back down. It's an incredible difference than just pushing both arms through the movement. So when you start here low, try to reorient again and let your right arm go limp again and let your left arm bring it up. Just do it one more time. And notice how difficult that gets. And that's actually a lesson in aparigraha, in letting go, an attachment to I have to move the right arm. It's a very different way of looking at it. Okay, relax the right arm. Now let's try the same thing with the left. So we're gonna palm to palm, get your thumb in there. Relax that left arm before you begin. So you want to do a mental note of relaxation and then bring it up with the right hand and keep letting go, letting go, letting go, letting go. And now the movement dramatically changes with the fingertips pressed back and the arm coming down. Isn't that interesting? So we're not just rushing through it and doing reps, in other words. And then now we start all over. Let go of that left. Let the right arm bring it up. Follow the waterfall motion, but let the right arm and hand do the work. And then do it one more time. See how much you can let go of the left. See how much is it actually pulling against the right and wanting to be a participant in this exercise, which of course it always has been. So if you still feel that resistance, that's perfectly normal, but then just realize it, back off. And then this simple little lesson is you can carry this right into your everyday, into that resistant mode that we all find ourselves in. Okay, let's rest both arms. Oh, and that feels good. Now, can we do that same thing with seated cat stretch? So now we're going to work the whole length of the spine. We're dealing with a much bigger part of the body, the spine and all the muscles that are attached to it. So how can we incorporate what we just did with energy, letting go, and rounding the back, and then scooping it forward, and then doing it all over again without rushing through the motion. And we're not even working with a breath cycle today. So breathing practices are maybe for another class, even though that we're still breathing even and deep and smooth. We're not coordinating it with the movement. So our focus is, how do we move that spine without pushing ourselves through it? How do we scoop up and make it feel delicious? We're going to do the same thing standing. So now that's going to add a whole different component to this little bit of energy, mindful work. All right, let's finish this one. Do one more, and then when you're done, just come back to a natural seated stance and take a little rest. And when you come back to that seated, dangle your arms and find that same position that you were in with your chin slightly tucked. Everything is lined up, head, neck, and spine. And just wallow into that sensation of what we just did to the body. And what we did to the body, how is it reflecting in the mind? How does your mind compute what you just did in a very different way? Is it an enjoyment or is it an irritation? That's an irritation because it's Kathy. Hang on. Oh, okay. And another irritation is me forgetting to silence my phone. But I'm cool. Gently come to standing. We're going to try a little exercise. So when you come to standing, just plant both feet on the floor equally. Line your shoulders up over the hips and just let your arms dangle naturally. I'm going to play with this a little bit. We're going to bring into your imagination that we're going to take a step forward. Don't do it. Just imagine you're taking a step forward with your right foot. So instead of actually taking the step forward, shift your weight to your left foot and bend the right knee and lift the heel as if you were going to take a step forward, but don't do it. And then replace the heel and go back to equal weight. We're going to do that several times. So shift left, lift your right heel, replace it, go back to standing. Try that several times and be very mindful of what's going on with that little bit of movement in the lower legs. And what does it take for you to take that initial step forward? Okay, now this next time, shift your weight to the left and take the step forward. Put your weight on the right. Now your left heel is up. And now shift back so your left heel is down. And then shift forward to your right foot, left heel up. And then back down again. And do that several times. Okay, now go back to standing, equal weight. Take your time when you move your feet. There's no hurry. Breathe deep. Now shift your weight to your right leg. Bend the left knee and lift the left heel. And now shift back and forth to the right, bending the left. And are you noticing a different experience from this one versus the first one? So this is the mindfulness part, the difference between the two. And what's interesting is when you break these things down to these tiny little micro movements is when you start really becoming aware of how the body moves and why that translates into everything in life. That spark of curiosity. Why does it feel different? All right, next one, step the left foot forward. You're going to raise your right heel and then back and forward. So this isn't fast. This is, why is my right heel coming up and my weight is on my left? What's happening to the physiology of the body when I do this? And do I like this side better than the other side or vice versa? So those interesting questions that seem mundane are actually the most important ones. This is how we travel through life. All right, now slowly go back to standing. Take your time. There's no hurry. There's no right or wrong either. This is just you and your body trying to figure some stuff out and asking some interesting questions. So rest here. Now, in an effort to, keep this as, a regular joints and glands class, we're going to take this thought process and bring it into our sun salutations. So grab your chair and mindfully just walk over to it. It's not a hurry. You got time. We're going to do this a little differently than we have in other classes. So we'll use up a lot of time on small movements. But now we'll incorporate our regular sun salutation using the thought process that we just learned. So bring your hands to your heart as always, and this time feel those fingertips again. Feel the heel of the hand. Feel all the knuckles. And then as if you were bringing your heart energy out to the world, press it forward. So this now is not a stop. Sometimes we do this, we say stop. This is now a giving or a healing. Buddha, if you watch a Buddha statue, healing Buddha is like this. So the one hand is up in healing mode. So we're going to do both and then reach it up and back. And then scoop it to a forward fold. Try a right lunge, but step it mindfully, gently. And notice when the knee hits the floor and when you curve the body up and look. What do you look at? What just came to mind? Now step to the down dog position. And when you come into the cobra position, take your time. To me, it almost feels like I'm a wave on the ocean. And I'm cresting and waning or ebbing and flowing. Go back to down dog. Very different. Plant the heels. Think of stepping that right foot forward into lunge again, and then now think of the left knee touching the floor. And then arcing up again. Step to forward fold, but take your time. And what does it mean to fold forward? Come up. I like to think of a bird. And we're going to do the other side this time. So come back to that forward fold. So float down like you're landing on a branch. And then bring that left foot back for a lunge. And just ask yourself some of those questions or different questions. Go to down dog. Maybe there's something different that you can think of why this feels good. And then come to the cobra. And down dog. And then mindfully step that left foot forward, drop the knee, and arc the back. And then forward fold. Very different way of viewing movement. And then just gently float back up, like you're on a heat thermal. And return that energy back to your heart center. And I'd like to just stand here and enjoy that. some question that might arise would be, why does this feel so different? Or maybe a comment would be, I like it better, or I like the other way better. And that's okay. That's just exploring you. Okay, so from here, work your way onto the floor on your backs. So more exploration is, how did you transition from there to here? Give your knees a good hug once you're there. And then go into a happy baby. And then bring the knees together and straighten the legs up, toes toward the ceiling, straight legs. Now, when we drop just the left leg to the floor, take your time, hang on to the right one, and bring your focus on the left leg. Lower it slowly, but keep your mind on the left. Now, when the heel touches the floor, bring it back up again with the same mindful effort. And now switch sides. So hang on to the left and lower the right. So your attention is on that right leg lowering. The right leg is lowering to the floor. Notice the relationship between the right leg and the left leg. Just the relationship, not the left leg. When the heel hits, bring that right leg back up. So there's a relationship between what the right leg is doing and what the left leg is not doing. Now, if both legs are up, hang onto the backs of both of them. And open them equally into a V. And notice the relationship between the two. Now there's an energy space there, just like we did with our fingertips at the beginning of class. There's a relationship and an energy field here as well. So bring the legs closer together. And see if there's any sensitivity to an energy of that space between them. There might not be. That's okay, because we don't use our feet and our legs for that purpose. We use hands. But open them again and just notice the distance rather than the legs. Breathe easy and just let it happen. So now the space has gotten much smaller. Your legs are straight, toes to the ceiling. Now we're going to let go of the legs and drop both of them to the floor. So feel that resistance. Feel it in the lower abdomen. And as soon as those heels hit the floor, go to full, relax the body, not in Shavasana yet, just relax. And then bring both arms overhead. Point your fingertips and point your toes and give the body a long, juicy stretch. So we're putting the whole body in tension now, fingertips to toes. But we're still breathing even, calm, and smooth. So body is still in full tension. Arms are overhead along the floor. Upper arms by the ears, toes pointed, fingertips pointed. So we're tensing the muscles. You can tense the thighs and the buttocks and the shoulders and reach deeper, go deeper into that tension. Still breathe. And now relax everything. So relax first. Bring your arms down by your side, palms up. Separate your legs a little bit. So go into that full corpse pose. And then now we attend to breath. Now we just watch as it breathes the body. So within this attention of watching the breath, let that same vital force of that breath relax your whole face again, in your neck, and your shoulders, and arms, and hands, and fingers. Breathe in deep each time, and then exhale, relax the chest and middle belly and pelvis. And you can take another deep breath in, and then relax legs and knees, and ankles and feet and toes, and just go to that deep sense of stillness. And when we relax systematically like this, we can go into relaxation very quickly, very mindfully, very still. Close your eyes, rest everything. No thoughts until we begin to move again. So when we move, bend the knees, bring the feet to the floor, and then roll to your side and gently come up. And as my teachers always have said, I bow to the divinity in you. Namaste.